Lauren Zapala, it's so good to have you on this show. I have admired your work. I have collaborated, read your books, and I know that you have been in this whole authorpreneur self-publishing niche for a while. So I wanted to get you on the YouTube channel to be able to pick your brain and ask a couple questions that I know will be so helpful for my audience as well. So first of all, I'd love to hear a little bit. You got started in 2013. Can you tell us a little bit about why you started becoming an authorpreneur and how you got started?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll give you the short version. So I went through a lot of writing problems myself, a lot of writer's block. I joined a silent writing program in San Francisco in 2006, and that's where I completed my first memoir. And then I started looking for agents, as so many writers do. And I formed my own writing group, and I still had my own writing issues. So I was really grappling with all of the different aspects of being a writer. And it was around 2013 that I thought, if I could just put this online somewhere for people, if I could just put online everything I've learned, everything I'm struggling with, the solutions I've found, that would be a really great resource. And that's how I started my blog. That was the first stepping stone. That was literally the first brick in my online business was my blog, which I started in 2013. And it was just laurensapala.com. It's still laurensapala.com to this day. And then everything grew from there. You know, all of the other books, teaching, classes, courses, all of the online presence, everything grew from there. That one stepping stone of the blog way back in 2013.
That's great. So then when did your memoir come out?
My memoir actually published in 2017.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, it was a long time after.
That's great. And so I'd love to zoom in there because, 2013 started the blog, started to grow. Then 2017, the memoir comes out. So I'm going to ask you about publishing, etc. But over these years, I mean, that's the it's been 10 years since 2013, and that's right at the halfway mark. What changes have you seen in publishing, in indie publishing? What changes have you seen over the last 10 years?
Well, oh my goodness. So, I mean, way back in the day, I worked at a startup and we had an online platform for published authors. And this was in 2007. And at that time, indie publishing was still very much looked down on. I mean, you had little boutique publishers that had some credibility, but if you were self-publishing, it was not cool. And it was definitely not cool in the scene. And so I came to writing with that mindset of I have to get an agent. I have to go traditional. No one will respect me if I don't. And then I started the blog and I really started to get into building my online platform, which meant I joined Twitter and I joined Facebook and I started making these online connections. I started doing podcast interviews with people. I started doing blog hops and I started
really wonderful at partnering.
Yeah, I really started learning a lot about online marketing. And when I learned more about online marketing, I looked at what I knew from the traditional writing world and I thought, I don't think these people are really getting it.
So I love what you've said right there, because that's the perfect example. That knowing so much about self-publishing, I'd love to know more about INFJ Writer. How did you get that moving? How did you get that going?
So the thing is, when I started with INFJ Writer, I was a huge personality theory nerd. I was online all the time researching, soaking up this information. I was on all the best sites, the most obscure sites, and I really knew that world. I really knew that scene. And part of what I wanted to do with INFJ Writer is I wanted to add something to the conversation that wasn't already there. There was so much about the personality functions and what they meant. And I knew you could get that information anywhere, but I wanted to do my own thing with my own insights. I knew if I went with a traditional publisher, they would most likely want me to change the book, especially in the first part, to explain personality theory and to explain all the functions. But based on the research I was doing on Amazon, the books on personality theory, that was the number one complaint. People said, this seems like regurgitated stuff from the internet. I already know all this stuff. I want new. I want different. Why did I pay $10 for this book? So it was those sorts of things I was seeing where publishers really had these blind spots. They weren't doing the research I was doing. They didn't have the online marketing experience. And honestly, 10 years later, 7 years later, I believe they still don't. I still talk to authors all the time, and they are telling me what their traditional publisher is telling them to do. And it's shocking. Honestly, it's shocking. I had a client tell me the other day, his publisher told him the marketing strategy is for him to create a Facebook author page and beef up his Goodreads presence.
Wow.
And I said, Goodreads, really? That's interesting, because there's not a lot of traction on Goodreads. And the self-published people know that. Goodreads is okay, but you're not going to get a whole lot from Goodreads. That ship kind of sailed in 2015.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's really interesting that that's what they're pointing at. They're not saying, hey, build an email list. Hey, check out TikTok. Hey, start making video. Video is very popular. It's very interactive. No, none of that. Beef up your Goodreads presence. I was really shocked.
That's so interesting because, of course, we're all people. And so we might have, oh, what if I tried this? What if I tried that? And so I think that's great because it takes it off the pedestal of, oh, these people know everything. They're all just making guesses. And the fact is that we know an awful lot because we've been feeding our families with this stuff for years and years. And so that's another really fun thing about self-publishing, is that you see it up front for yourself. You see it on a daily basis. And so when you can gamify it, when you can make it fun, when you can create partnerships and conversations and all of these things, it takes the intimidation out of marketing. And then it just becomes something you're fascinated by, something you love to experiment with. And so one thing I would love to get from you are your top success. What if you were the publisher, the traditional publisher, and you don't want them going to Goodreads, obviously, what direction would you put them in? What are your top success tips?
Well, so I would say number one, this is always my number one tip: build an email list.
Yeah.
Build an email list, build an email list, build an email list. And I say, I can't believe they're sending him to Goodreads. And I'm not saying that out of nowhere. I know what Goodreads is because I've been on Goodreads since 2013. I've done the Goodreads giveaways. I've networked on Goodreads. I've been active on Goodreads. I've done the Goodreads thing. I've seen what I've gotten back, which has been pretty much nothing. I've also put a lot of time and energy into building an email list, and I see what I've gotten back, which is a full-time income, really, which is an income that supports my entire family from my email list. I've put time and energy into YouTube, and I've also gotten back great results. So that was number one. I would say build an email list. And number two, I would say video. I know both of these things. Some people are going to hear this and say, oh, I'm really uncomfortable with that. I don't know what to send. I don't know if I want to be on video. I don't know what to say. You don't have to be perfect at it. You don't have to be savvy or even know what you're doing, but start trying, start learning, because there's such a huge return on both of those things. You don't have to do YouTube, but video on Instagram, video on TikTok, video in your emails, video, and email. Those are my two top tips.
Yes. And check out Lauren's YouTube channel. It's wonderful. And that's another really great point I want to highlight for me, because obviously I don't know what I'm doing and I am just getting into more video all the time. And so I love this. One way that I think, and I'm wondering if you've done this too, you already had a following. You'd been in this for so many years. So of course, if you start to try something new, you can flow that entire email list to video, and then that supports what you're doing on your YouTube channel. And so if something were to happen to YouTube and you decided to move to a different form of video, let's say you went over to Vimeo, which doesn't have as much traction, doesn't have as much outreach like the algorithm on YouTube. But if you moved it someplace else, you would have all those subscribers, and then you can just flow that wherever you want to go. Is that how you did it? Do you find that to be true?
I do find that to be true. I also interlink everything. So I've got my website, and then I've got the YouTube channel, and then I've got Medium. So everything I blog about on my website, I republish it to Medium because Medium takes republished articles, which is very important. It's no extra time or energy. I literally copy and paste. Takes 5 seconds. And then on Medium, I have links to the YouTube channel, to my newsletter list. And then on YouTube, I've got links to the newsletter list. And then I'm sending out newsletters with videos, with new courses. So it's like a big spider web. Everything's interlinked. You hit one button, it's going to take you to another button. It's going to take you to another button, and they're all intertwined. And then the system works for itself. I've always done things that way. I got like chutes and ladders.
That's awesome. And then when you have it like shoots and ladders, it becomes a game. It becomes fun. There are people you want to have a conversation with. And so one of the things I really wanted to get out of you before we let you go is tell us a little bit more about partnerships. You've been doing this since 2013. Your partnerships, your summits, all of these things, your resources are great. So how do you go about creating partnerships?
Partnerships are so important, and it's a big area I see writers struggle with, especially writers who have trust issues, or they're like, I don't know if I'm good enough. You don't have to like put your eye on someone and strategically say, okay, I'm in a partnership with them. I'm going to send them a letter and I'm going to pitch them a proposal. I've never done things that way. I've just been around. I've just hung out on Twitter. I've hung out on the social media sites, and I've made friends with people. Every partnership I ever had, it was just somebody who seemed pretty cool, who I started talking to somewhere. One guy commented on a Medium post and said, oh, I love this article, and I read this really cool book on reincarnation. I was like, oh, sir, that's so interesting. And I commented back and said, I picked up the book and I read it, and that was great. And then we started emailing. So it's stuff like that. The best partnerships I've had, they've grown out of friendships. I mean, that was how I met you. We were doing a summit, and I was Googling around for introvert writing coaches. You looked great. I asked you to the summit. You did the interview. I was like, oh, she's really nice. We kept emailing me.
Yeah.
Like, it was like we emailed back and forth, and like it just naturally grew. I wasn't like, yes, I have a target on her. I want to get her to say yes to my pitch. It was just like, I don't know, we're chatting. She seems cool. Okay. It can be that casual and that fun.
And that easy and that authentic. Exactly. And I think that brings us right back to INFJ. I'm an INTP, so I'm a thinker, perceiver, but at the same time, completely introverted. I get all of my energy from sitting by myself with a notebook, and yet I love creating partnerships like this. And so to kind of bring everything full circle, where can we find you? Where can we get the INFJ books? And how, as an introvert, how can we get over kind of sitting by ourselves with a notebook, because it is a place that writers struggle with. So how can we get past this, and how can you help us do that?
So number one, you can just Google my name, Lauren
Right.
Sapala.
And I'll link everything below. So just look right down there.
Amazon, like everything will come up. It's super easy. Second thing, with the introvert thing, I think introverts are so self-conscious about how everyone's viewing us, especially because when we were young, we were pushed to talk more, be more assertive. You're too shy. So we have this self-consciousness that like, I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. If you take the focus off you and you focus on your curiosity about the other person, that's where I've always started. Like, read that person's book. Look at that person's Instagram posts, watch their videos. If they resonate, if they truly do, and you're like, this is interesting, this is fun, reach out and start the conversation from there. I saw your video on this and I loved it, and it really resonated with me this way. Or I read your book and I loved it, and start the conversation from there. Not sort of like, well, here's me and here's what I have to offer, and this is why I'm okay and you should like me. That doesn't work. Start from their thing. Start from your curiosity and your excitement about their thing, and take it from there.
I love that. I needed that reminder too, because then you can just go deeper and deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and it gets you out of your head, and then it just opens up so much. Lauren, thank you for hanging out with us. I love so much information so quickly. And I hope to be able to have you on here again soon. So much love. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.